Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. So, I want to talk about the process of the transition into the new earth, okay? In a broader scope. We know that the world is changing rapidly, and to a lot of people, that change is unknown and a mystery and causes a lot of agitation, frustration, and even fear. But in the book that I'm working on at this moment, hopefully will be out 2 months or 3 months from now. Uh, let's see, May or June. I've been working on. Uh, um, I've outlined. It's called Toward the Future Earth. I've outlined the whole and subtitle Finding Safe Passage into the New Earth. And the whole thing is outlined there. But I want to focus on a couple of things. We are transitioning not just between, let's say, a different state of consciousness. Like I'm conscious now, and if I take deep breath and do pranayama and deep breath control, I can go into meditation. That's a transition from one state of consciousness where the brain wave change, I go to a deeper state, and I change the level of consciousness and the frequency of my brain wave. We are working toward a transition from a 3D reality into a 5D and beyond. This is a huge shift, okay? And it requires certain kind of accelerated adjustment of our consciousness. And the shift, the passage between one state of awareness and another, like being awake and going to meditation, or being awake and going to sleep, or being asleep and awaken. All of these are called Bardo. And in Tibetan Buddhism, Bardo literally translates as a gap or intermediary state that exists between two states of consciousness. It's the passage that they call Bardo. What we're going through is a gigantic Bardo, and it will take, and it already started, and it will take many years, because we are collectively as a planet shifting from a 3D perception into a higher perception that will anchor us into an understanding and a connection to higher dimension. And for that passage to occur, what we think is true about the 3D reality that is captured by all five senses, whether it is touching, tasting, smelling, hearing, seeing, will be enhanced, changed, and elevated into a different level, so that we will now begin to perceive, sense, know, and understand things on completely differently. I want you to also be aware that one of the things that I may be talking about several times in the course of our conversation today was the emerging awareness, meaning that if you surrender and let go of the 3D, the five senses, and your connection to the 3D world, and you learn how to listen, meaning you surrender everything into an inner knowing that exists in you. Because knowledge and the perception of this higher dimension is actually remembering. At some point in the past, we were connected to it and we forgot, we lost the connection, or we shed those parts of us that exist in higher dimension, we cast them out so that we can descend into this lowest density. So we're reverse engineering, and as we're reverse engineering, we need to be very aware that it's the emerging awareness that already exists inside of us. It's already in us, we just have to remember it. So a lot of it is to begin to trust an intuitive energetic and frequency knowing that exists in us, and that's going to wash over us like a wave crashing against us at our feet on a seashore. It's just a wave of knowing that's going to wash over you. And that wave of knowing will include everything that you need to know, and awareness of instantaneously that something is different. Sometime initially, we may not know what the difference is. And those experiences are what I call psychic dissonance. It's like your body knows something is different, but your mind and your consciousness has problem trying to articulate and understand in a 3D format a reality or a perception that's 4D or 5D. Okay? And you have to learn for a minute, or sometimes it takes me 2 to 3 months before I finally can articulate what I'm sensing and what I'm feeling, because it's so expanding and so much bigger than anything I had ever seen before. So we are in the process of this growth spur, of this expansion, and all of us, particularly intuitives, every time an intuitive or psychic is telling you, I am seeing X, Y, Z, it's not necessarily that they have vision, although at times they may be clairvoyant and have vision. For the most part, what they are actually saying is that I know, because there is a wave that watch over them, that they are actually instantaneously have an understanding of the higher perception. And then now comes the real challenge. Once the one whose consciousness is expanding is to try to figure out a way to translate that transmission into a way that people in 3D can actually understand. And sometimes it takes months before you can actually articulate it correctly. Because no matter what word you're using, the vocabulary, the syntax, the language to express what is not or does not exist in the 3D is very difficult to do. So allegory, analogies, it's like this, it feels like something else, and you're trying to express it as an interpolation to something that already exists in the 3D. The reason I'm going over this is because as we are watching what's happening around the world, things seem to be falling apart in all different sectors of our life. Personally, emotionally, financially, internationally, there are all kinds of things that seems to be breaking apart. The existing paradigm and grid and metrics is falling apart. And there's a reason for it with all these glitches. It's because we're transitioning into something else. And I think the mistake that many people make is that they keep talking about this transit. Everybody is now, in the normal lexicon of our country, of the planet, everybody is talking about this idea of a new earth or new order, and things are changing into something else. But everyone is making the mistake in the mass media of claiming that this is a bifurcation, that this is a transit and a change between two choices that we have. I can tell you categorically, this is incorrect. It's not a difference between black or white, or separation between conservative versus liberal. It's none of the above. It is actually an array of choices that we need to make, because consciousness is too complex to give us just a difference between two choices. And as we are approaching this emerging change, we need to be very aware of what are the identifiable choices on the horizon. I'm going to get into that in a second, but before I do this, I want to talk about the difference, particularly when there are paths or choices that are in front of us. There are certain paths, when you follow them, they go horizontal to where we are. Because when we're in 3D, we have X, Y, and Z axis. We talked about this at length in a few classes ago, and how the emerging 4D and 5D is an expansion into space-time, a different coordinate, like instead of X, Y, Z, there is also an alpha axis and an omega axis and a delta, and and so on and so forth, and theta, and so on. So we have to be very aware that each one of these higher densities and dimension brings something else to the picture. When we talk about a parallel reality, we are talking about a horizontal shift to where we are. It's still 3D-like, but it's a 3D-like experience that is slightly different because a couple of things have been changed and tweaked. Okay? And the reason for this, and of course, the opposite, higher dimension, or actually vertical. And they shift you into a higher perception of all realities, not just going parallel to experience an Earth that's similar to ours. Let's say, for example, where a war that was lost in ours is actually won, or one or two things are tweaked. So we need to be aware of this. So some of the choices I'm going to be mentioning here are parallel, and only one choice is actually vertical. So the other choices are horizontal to us. And I want to also mention the reason why we've been so focused on the torsion field of the Guardian Alliance of Light and doing it in a slow manner and all. It's because that's a choice of a path that is actually horizontal, that will take us into higher consciousness, as opposed to something that's parallel to us. Okay. So I'm going to read you a paragraph from, what chapter is this? Chapter 15 in my new book called The Galactic Equator Crossing. And this is a preview, but I'm going to read just one paragraph and I will explain it in great detail. We are about to shift into a higher expression of ourselves, but the choice is not simply between two things. It is not a bifurcation into opposite worlds. Consciousness is too complex to give us just two choices. There is an array of realities and possible futures for us to choose from. So far, identify or I'm going to read them first and I'm going to go into them in detail. So far, identify or the reparation of the 3D world path, the anarchy path, the xenophobic path, the technologically enhanced or transhuman path, the spiritually hedonistic path, the chemical shortcut or bypass path, the surface spirituality path, the do-nothing path, and the path of accelerated spiritual practice. Let's focus in the details. The first path mentioned here is the reparation of the 3D world path. That path is about us, or the people who have chosen that as, in other words, when you're looking at people around the planet and what they are doing and what they are focusing on, pay attention to these various markers that I've given you, and you will see what path that they are following. And all of us are making choices individually and collectively to fall along any one of these paths. And we're moving and we're creating and we're making choices that are connected to this. The people who are following the path of a fix to try to fix a reparation of the 3D world, they are in the process of, although they realize, for example, by climate change, that humanity has done a lot of things to cause all kind of catastrophic climate event to occur, they are trying to fix this and still behave in a manner that connects them to the 3D reality. There is no fundamental changes that are being done. It's just a surface reparation or repair of the 3D world, because for them, the future Earth is a physical 3D goal. It actually exists in the 3D world we already are in. They just need to change certain things, either politically, either socially. They want to end poverty, or they want to make sure that the global warming stops. They want to, and people have multiple versions of this. Other people decide, well, it's not going to be changed by you taking this policy or that policy, and they're arguing. I want this other policy to be instilled in. I want that policy to be, you're incorrect. And there's a lot of argument back and forth into what, when you go at night and you dream of what that future Earth is like for you, what does that dream looks like to you? Is it a reparation of that 3D reality? That's the goal, the end goal for you. That if 4 or 5 things were fixed in the world, we would be, golden age. Is that really what, for example, one of the things in the 3D reality that's a real problem, for example, is the way we exchange with each other, the financial system, where there's a lot of inequity, and all of this very wealthy and dominant people are at the top, the 1%, and everybody else is in complete struggle. Is that a model of what the golden age should be? Some people argue yes, other people argue the opposite. Again, reparation of the 3D world. There is another path that's chosen by a few people, and I've seen these people online. They want pure anarchy, the anarchy path. What they want is for everything to be destroyed. And you would be surprised of the people who are involved in that path. I know people who are running non-for-profit for years, who have all kinds of accolades, that have all kinds of degrees, and people you would not think. They want everything to shatter, and they want anarchy to exist on the planet. This is what they are following. They want a destruction of everything else that exists in the world. Because to them, everything is being held together by a cabal, and they want the destruction of every institution that there is. The third path, it's the xenophobic path. It's a path in which individuals, the woes and the problems that the world is facing. Because, for example, right now there's a migration problem. And the migration problem has to do with the fact that climate change plus social political issues that are related to gang or political system that are so suppressive has caused a lot of people to want to migrate to other countries, legally or illegally, because they don't have a choice. They're doing this out of survival. And it's going to get worse because of global warming. There's a path that says the outside or the other people are to blame. It's the Haitian, it's the Jews, it's the Arab, it's the, you name the nation. Okay? And so it's the black, it's the whomever. And so the fear of the xenophobia, the fear of that other, has a whole dynamic, a whole path in itself. Beyond that, the next path is what I call the technologically enhanced or the transhuman path. This is a path that's emerging very fast. within a matter of less than 10 years, we're going to have functioning AI or hybrid human. People are going to stop chipping themselves with a connection and enhancement, electronic and machine learning. AI is learning at accelerated rate. No matter how quickly and how accelerated AI is learning, AI cannot, machine learning is not consciousness. Let's be very clear about this. They can do calculation faster than human, they can do all kinds of things, but consciousness exists in the blessed field. A machine that does calculation, that's using electrical power to charge itself and everything else, cannot exist in the quantum field. But people are going to stop connecting themselves and enhancing themselves and become transhuman, or what I call human hybrid. They will be electronically enhanced. Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink that's doing that right now, that's connecting, putting chips in people's brain who cannot move their leg or arm to try to regenerate movement in those parts of their body. And that was only the beginning. There is a whole bunch of people. I remember going to years ago to a meeting where a lot of young millennials were gathered, and it was the talk was called "The Future of the Future." And one of these speakers was saying, in less than 10 years, we're gonna be able to download consciousness into a computer and blah blah blah, and we can exist forever, and we can leave another planet, and we can send our consciousness to the stars, you know. And I was just, it was bothering me, and I was like, finally I get up when he was done. I'm like, excuse me, but the reason we have all the woes in the world, it's because technology is advancing too fast, and we don't have the morals and the ethics to actually not control, but to actually maneuver, and we don't have the wisdom to address the ethical conundrum that are going to be created by all of this accessibility and power. Why would I want to take us as a menace and spread them through the stars? We can't even get along in planet Earth. We're going to send all of our bodies and consciousness into other world to create more war and more destruction. We should evolve as human beings first, instead of trying to enhance us and create what is called a transhuman. The next path after that is what I call the spiritually hedonistic path. These are individuals who are so trapped into their desire body that all they want, although they are claiming to be spiritual and they claim to be shaman and to be what do you call this? That they are shaman and they have all of this knowledge about sacred sexuality and tantra and all of these things. What I can say to you, that this path is very dangerous, because they are dabbling in spirituality and they're invoking. It's a path that involves a lot of orgy and a lot of sexual experiences that follows the body, the pleasure of the body only. Although they are claiming to be spiritual and to be so open, and it's tantric stuff and all of that, and so on and so forth, it's not true tantric, true tantric, authentic tantric knowledge. It's actually a corruption of it, okay, by certain individuals that are not of that culture, and they are calling all these entities that are courting them to various group bodies as a way to keep them into that parallel reality and lead them into it. Again, these people are only trapped in their desire body and their pleasure body. That's all they want. That's all they are pursuing. It's the pleasure of their body. There's another path as well that's called the chemical shortcut and bypass. These are individual. They are kind of similar to the hedonistic, but not always. And sometimes they overlap each other because a lot of the people in the hedonistic path also do that, which is people who are taking sacred herbs or roots to create psychedelic or what they call psychonaut state or state of consciousness that will open up their psyche for them to project 200 years in the future and have incredible spiritual psychic experiences. And then when they return back, they have to learn how to integrate it and bring it into some sort of practical connection back to earth. Like people who do ayahuasca journeys, all kind of psychedelic stuff that will enhance their experience of so-called spirituality. This is not a path for me because I don't need any drugs. I don't need any psychedelic I can just take a deep breath and relax. And as I'm relaxed, I'm already there. Certain people might find this interesting to them because they have a problem, let go, their mind is racing all the time. They might find this, and this is not a path for me. But that path also has a dark side to it because connected to it, or what is called the void, or what is called the void. The void is that when you take these sacred herbs and you're trying to travel, if you're not from the tradition or you're not doing it under the proper supervision of a qualified shaman, it is easy to go into the void, which is a nihilistic kind of experience where everything about your consciousness is erased like this in a snap of an instant. And everyone that I know that has gone into it and has experienced the void swear they will never do that again. It was the worst thing that they have ever done. And I know at least 2 people who went and did this kind of journeys who have had psychotic breakdown because they couldn't get back to where they were before. The journey was so dramatic and abrupt to their consciousness, they couldn't return back to themselves. And they're still damaged even today. And I know people also who have died during those chemical bypass, the herbs and chemical bypass, those journeys. There is another path also, which is people who are realizing the world is changing and they make the choice to do absolutely nothing. They're not going to change themselves. They're not going to change their behavior. They're just going to sit around and do nothing, nothing whatsoever. And finally, I want to talk about what I call the path of accelerated spiritual practice. Now, this is the path that we're in, but it's not a singular. Okay, all the previous paths that I mentioned so far are all horizontal. The path of accelerated spiritual practice is actually vertical. And the reason I'm mentioning this, it's because this vertical path that will take you up is actually something that we should be very aware of for multiple reasons. And more importantly, we should be very cognizant that there are multiple branches of accelerated spiritual practice. Because, for example, the path of neutrality and Melchizedek and neutrality is accelerated spiritual practice. But there's also a path of service, for example, that is also an accelerated spiritual practice. There is a path of the Bodhisattva, which is also an accelerated spiritual practice. So there are multiple, within the umbrella of accelerated spiritual practice, there are multiple paths, all of which are all horizontal. They will elevate you into a higher dimension instead of taking you parallel to something similar to Earth with a slight variation and differences. Any questions or comments? Okay, so what I want to mention here is the following. We, the reason the paths and the separation and if you think of your friends and the choices they're making, the people you know in the life community, you can realize that this person is on that path. That one is going to do nothing. That one is interested in the hedonistic path. They're doing Tantra yoga. Every time someone tells you, we have a Tantra meeting and Tantric yoga, sacred sexuality, be very careful because it's a recruitment system to take you into orgy and the hedonistic path. Be very careful. Because very few people in the West really know true tantric and sacred sexuality. They are trying to recruit you to enhance your desire body because sex sell, and they're trying to recruit a whole bunch of people to take them into a parallel reality. So if your goal, your real goal, is to find a new earth, and you're sincere in that goal, you need to be very aware of all of these side paths that exist. And don't let yourself get distracted by the glamour and the illusion and the allure that they're creating. And keep maintaining your focus on your goal, which is to ascend and to leave the planet illuminated.
It's true about ayahuasca. I had done it once way back 11 years ago. And although I had an amazing experience, Raphael, he got lost in that abyss that you're talking about. What is it, the void?
Yes.
And it was a horrible experience for him. And yeah, he said he will never do it again. And it was very scary, apparently, in that void, whatever that is. He recovered afterwards, and he did some work with someone else to help him out of that. But yeah, it was a bad experience for him. According to the people who had a bad experience that are they male or female?
Both.
Oh, interesting.
Both.
Because according to someone I know, this Deva, apparently she is fierce, ayahuasca, that everybody calls mother, mother, mother. She's not such a high spirit as people think. And
Correct.
she actually apparently does damage, especially to men, I have heard. But yeah.
Yeah. They call her grandmother. Yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah. Anyways.
And what I can say to you is that people who are doing the shaman in the jungle who are doing this, that's their entire culture.
Yeah.
They live and they exist in that world.
Yeah.
And so I know a young man whose mother, unfortunately for him, was taking her two young son into these very ceremonies because she was connected to the native stuff and all that from South America. And then the son had a psychotic breakdown. And she's still living with the guilt today because the son is never the same again, even now.
Yes, some people go through it with these magic mushrooms that they go and they never come back normal from those trips.
Well, she had done ayahuasca and the son had a psychotic breakdown. Mental hospital for like 2 years. I mean, not normal.
Yeah.
Unable to function in the normal world, floating in other realities and seeing all this crazy vision even after the journey was over.
Exactly.
So we should be very careful when we're connecting to all of these things. It is highly dangerous. It can be useful for certain people for certain circumstances, but be very aware that it is not it will not lead you into the new earth. It will lead you somewhere else. It's a parallel world, and it's going to go horizontal. And if your goal is about elevating and ascending and going into this higher realm, you're not going to achieve it when you get sidetracked by all these other things. And a lot of it also is that a lot of people in the West are captivated by getting high. They just love getting high. And they will do anything, whatever chemical, just so that they can get high. As opposed to you and I that are seeking a connection to God, ascension and elevation. It's not about getting high, because that itself is a glamour. It's an ego trip that will derail you. It's what in Tibetan Buddhism they call these things Maya. That's a Maya. It's an illusion. Getting the trip and having the vision. In Tibetan Buddhism, they want the Tibetan Buddhists, when you're beginning to do true advanced spiritual practice, even the vision that you're receiving, they're telling you that the visions are Maya, illusion. There's a glamour that's connected to it. And you need to understand that ascension is beyond the illusion or the perception that you're getting. That you're feeling all of this and you're traveling very fast through space and there's light and you're being shot out and all these crazy things that are happening when you're doing ayahuasca. They're telling you all of that is an illusion. That true ascension is something else. I wanted to enumerate these things to you to give you a sense. Think about you. What do you really dream of if you're thinking about the new earth? What are your goals? To what purpose are you doing all of this work that we've been doing for all these years? Is it for one of the other parallel realities that I've been talking about? Is it just to enhance you to have hedonistic pleasures? Is it to do nothing? Is it to create anarchy? Is it to fix the 3D reality? What is the end goal for you? And whatever that end goal is, keep that in your heart and keep that in your prayer. And if you desire true liberation and true ascension, you should, when you're praying and when you're in your meditation, do not let peer pressure and the fact that other people around you are doing X, Y, Z guide you into derailing and going the wrong path. I don't need to do any of the other mentioned above because I know what my path is. And I know the benefit that I have received from it. And I have smoked nothing, done nothing to get to it. I've done a lot of breath practice. I've done a lot of meditation to connect to it. And sure enough, it's a sure, safe path, and it has taken me there.
Can I ask, pardon me, excuse me, can I ask a question about people who are unaware of a spiritual transition that's going to be happening? We're just sort of blindly living day to day, doing the best they can, I'm sure, though not particularly spiritual in essence. Good people. What path are they on? And are they on a path at all?
Where they are right now, all of these parallel realities are overlapping each other at this moment because they're all occupying the same space.
Right.
And they are jousting and battling for control to as many people as possible. And they typically have an avatar or a teacher that is promoting that specific reality. And they might have more than one avatar, but they have agent in the 3D world that have been completely preoccupied by this and that are courting people and recruiting them. For example, like the people you're talking about, maybe they are in the xenophobe, they are being recruited by xenophobic rhetorics that are in mass media. Maybe they are being recruited by anarchy or fix the 3D reality, repair of the 3D reality. But they are being recruited by something. Trust me. Or people are seeking them out and trying to capture them.
So that means that if, for instance, following a particular news channel that has a bent on the right or the left, or listening to some speaker espouse their particular viewpoint about world events or personal events, if they follow or in agreement with that person, that's the path that
Exactly.
I see.
That's the path that they're on.
Without choosing
Well, when you don't make a choice, you make a choice.
Yes.
Okay? And more importantly, what karma do they have with that leader? Because the leader, the person who's the physical leader of that news channel, is nothing more than an agent, a physical manifestation for a specific entity or group body. So what kind of connection that they have karmically with that group body? That this is what they're attracted to. Because you're certainly not attracted to it. All of us are not attracted to it. We're attracted to something else. So it has to do with the karma and the choices we've made in past life, the debit and the credit of karma, the good and the bad karma.
And I can understand what you're saying, because very often growing up in a family with a group body perspective about social, economic, political thoughts or beliefs indoctrinate all the people in that family more than likely. So that may be a karmic entanglement with that group body.
Exactly. And also, even within a group body, there might be one person that goes totally the opposite and that goes against it. That says, I'm not doing this. You're all crazy. And when that happened, that person has a different karma and broke away from the influence of the family history and the collective karma of the family. Right? So we should be very aware of this. And I know that the people who are so-called innocently going by, and you're right, they are good people. They don't mean any ill, but when you hear their rhetoric on mass media, because they are regurgitating what they're hearing from their leader, and if you try to confront them or have a conversation with them about this, they attack you. And by the way, don't try to change people. It's a waste of time. They are making a soul choice that they are going into a horizontal and parallel reality. You and I cannot stop this. This is what they're identifying with in their core. And the part that's the most difficult, most complicated and most difficult, it's the fact that the people that we love the most are going to make these choices to go into parallel realities. And we can't do nothing about taking them on a bus, because they've chosen to travel to a different place.
Well, I think what you've said, which is sort of soothing, is that everybody will get there eventually, and that they just maybe on a different bus or a different train.
And they need they will take the you may be on the express bus, they're going to be on the local.
And God can reach them as well as us.
Absolutely. In time, they will get it. They will get it. They will evolve in time. Again, it's because, some of us are faster than others because of our karma, because of all the work we've done in the past. We're able to catch things quicker. Other people are slower. And everybody has to move at their own speed, whatever that speed is. And we need to give them the grace and the acceptance and no judgment of anybody that's on any path. No judgment whatsoever. This is a profound evolutionary evolution of consciousness. You cannot judge anybody for the choices that they are making. Even the people who are the anarchists, who are very scary. I had to unfriend a couple of former students on mass media because the kind of rhetoric they were putting out there was so. Every time I opened my mass media platform, I would see these very offensive statements, very vile and very violent. And I have to be honest with you. I have watched people whose character I would have vouched for some years ago change dramatically in a matter of 3 months by watching their mass media posting and what they are saying, that I don't recognize the person anymore. They have become something else. They have made different choices and they have aligned themselves with principalities in higher places that are leading them astray in a different reality. And no judgment, but as you said, Janice, in time, God will reach them. But at this moment, we are not going. Dr. Stone used to say about marriage that a lot of time when you stay married for a while, a lot of time the experience you have is the different elevator effect. You still live in the same building, but each one of you in a separate elevator and you're on different floors. So the same can happen with family members as well, is that you're not seeing eye to eye, you're not aligning to the same, you're not going to the same place. So we should be very aware of this and understand that the choices that our family members and friends are making is as valid as ours. Don't try to force them into your understanding. Don't you see? Can't you understand? What is it about this? I've seen people having arguments like this. My 2 friends that I hang out with on the waterfront, they're arguing all the time. And one of them is always telling the other, didn't you hear what Pierre said? Didn't you? I'm like, leave him alone. He's a grown man. He will make his own choice. I'm not attached. I don't need him to agree with me. If I say something, he gets it, great. If he doesn't get it, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. I'm not God's assistant. I'm not invested in trying to convince him.
I think that's a good point that you just made. We're not God's assistant. God may have a plan that it's not right for them at this moment to take our path or any other path than what they're on, that it may be serving their highest good to remain as they are and to change them, thinking, as you said, as being God's assistant, may be the greatest disservice to them and to God.
Yes, and to the learning that they need to have, that needs to occur through the passage of their karma. Because a lot of times someone is choosing that path, it's because they have a karma with that collective.
Yes.
And giving that experience. And I even saw one person that chose the anarchy path, and in the course of a few years, of 2 years, I saw her posting things that were opposite to the anarchy path. She changed. And this pleasantly surprised me and also was warmed my heart. So God was able to reach her and show her that whatever she was attached to, that was feeding her all of this gaslighting her into believing all of these things, were not. She got it. It took her 2 years to get it, but she got it. And she's not doing that anymore. She's not posting all this crazy stuff anymore. I tend to observe people a lot because I listen quite a bit. So a lot of time I just sit silently and I observe. And when I observe, I can see the separation. I can see that this one's on that path, that one's on that path. And no judgment, but I'm just observing. I was talking, some friends of mine were visiting from Maryland, and we were eating together, and I remember one of them saying to me, talking about her sister and saying, my sister is happy to work for a charity, and she's happy, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And then she has another sister-in-law that kept saying, we should take her to church. We should, because they're both church going. We should take her to church, blah, blah. And she was like, I don't know what to say to her. I said, I'm sorry, but I disagree with that, because the path of service is a legitimate spiritual path. Through the service that you're doing, by you giving to the poor and helping the destitute, and it will open empathy and open your heart so big. And depending on the karma that she may have had in the past, that's the way that she's going to burn the karma and make the correction that's necessary for her to achieve enlightenment. It's a legitimate path toward enlightenment, and that will take you also vertical. When we pray for the world, when we intercede for others, when we stand and give people support, all of that also add to our positive karma and enhance us and takes us vertically. So when I see people talk bad about others and making all kind of derogatory comments, and beginning to demean others, sometimes I get very sad, because it's not about this, to be honest. We are all trying to do the best that we can, and our souls have contract because of our karma to take us to certain kind of realities that will serve us best at the moment, and we will eventually evolve out of those things and choose to elevate, and ultimately all of us will achieve transcendence and enlightenment. But for the moment, because of the propulsion of the transit, this stuff is getting accelerated and it's becoming really visible. Of all the things that I've mentioned, I'm sure some of you can begin to realize that there are people that you know that belong to the various categories. I know people who are choosing the path of do nothing. I have a friend of mine, I was with him yesterday, and he was saying, I don't care what's happening in the world. As long as my check comes in, he's retired, and I'm able to have my money, I don't care. I don't care about anything. That's the do nothing path. There are others who are, I'm going to burn everything down. We need to take the empire down. We need to destroy everything that there is. I actually saw somebody post that very same a comment similar to this on mass media. So depending on where you are and what you're doing, you're going to find that there are situations in which you are connected to that. And sometimes we straddle two paths at the same time. That's why I'm saying they're overlapping each other. For example, a lot of people who are doing the chemically enhanced, that are doing the ayahuasca and the herbs and the journeys, they're also part of the hedonistic parallel realities. So a lot of time, 2 or 3 things are overlapping each other. But at some point, going toward the galactic equator crossing, it will diverge. It will separate, and there will be a specific choice saying, I am in that reality. No, I am in that one. As it stands, a lot of time there overlaps. Some people want to fix the 3D reality by doing certain kind of repairs and tweaks, by realizing if we were to spend so much money and fix the banking system and do X, Y, Z and do etc., the 3D reality is therefore the goal. Fixing the 3D reality is the goal, and that's what the new earth looks like. To my mind and my consciousness, where we're going in terms of the new earth, it's not the 3D reality. It's somewhere that's way transcendental to the 3D world. Moreover, I keep joking all the time that this person is not on my bus, that one is on my bus, that one is not. I can tell you, two things. I had a dream, this is years ago, maybe 2 years ago, that I was on a highway, like Atlanta. You know how the highways in Atlanta, the lanes were like 6 cars on each side, 6 lanes on each side, and all that. Wide, very wide. And there was a lot of traffic, a lot of traffic. And all the cars that were there were like color yellow, like the color of a bus. And I was in the tiniest little car, like those mini 2-seater cars. It was yellow, and I was maneuvering the car. The traffic was stalled, and I was maneuvering the car, moving between the traffic and moving around, and I was able to get to where. And when I got to where I was supposed to go, which was on top of a hill, I opened the door, I got out, and you know what? When you go to the circus, there is a car with the clowns, and then all of a sudden it's a tiny car, and then all of these people started coming out of this, and there are 15, 20 people. That's what I saw. Like people with tiny little thing. And all of a sudden people were started coming out. And I woke up from the dream actually with a big smile on my face, because I kept thinking about the clown, the idea of a clown car. And I realized that I keep joking all the time that that analogy with the bus, that and also in your dream, when you're dreaming that you're driving on a highway, on a train, and you're going horizontal, you're going to a parallel reality. When you're driving up, because in this instance, at first we were driving horizontally and we started climbing up a hill. When you're going up or going down, you're going to higher dimensions. And in this instance, we drove on top of a hill to get to the house. And then the door opened and all these people started pouring out from it. So each of these realities we just mentioned, as I said earlier, has an avatar. That avatar becomes like the great attractor that will broadcast the message of that vortex that's trying to create a wave function collapse. First, an attraction to collect as many spoke in the wheel as possible, as many soul, as many people who have identified with that reality. It's going to try to attract them first. So that person is typically a magnetizer that we talked about last week. That person is capable of broadcasting in a broad way the path that they become the avatar for. And that person is typically called a nexus point, meaning they are the center of the vortex. And what do I mean about a wave function collapse? It's that when enough people have joined that very specific parallel, to make a choice to go into that parallel world, there will be a diversion. Instead of overlapping, there will be a separation. And this is what's going to happen at the 3 days of darkness, during that actual event where the whole planet will be in darkness for 3 days. Those parallel realities will begin to split apart. They will begin before that, but it will be complete during the time of the 3 days of darkness. And when the separation begins to happen, each of these parallel realities or parallel alternate realities will begin to precipitate, because enough people have been gathered, so the people who want to fix the 3D world will remain here. The people who want the hedonistic reality will go to a version of the earth where the hedonistic stuff is happening. The people who choose anarchy will go to anarchy. The people who are the transhuman and the hybrid will go to a parallel reality where this is, and the separation will begin to happen. Open up like an accordion. And I want you to understand the reason and the purpose for me to do this class is that I want you to be very aware, not only of what's happening around you, and not let yourself be distracted by side trip. Because there are people who are putting videos that's because their avatar are working overtime. Some of them are extremely articulate, or they have the budget to put incredible videos and things that seem convincing, where and the way they capture you, let's just talk about this, the way they capture you is that they create all these videos and all these beautiful graphic where they begin with a pet peeve that you have. Let's say the pet peeve is natural healing. They begin with that pet peeve and they begin to express certain things that you're agreeing with. That to your mind, the world would be better if these things were that way, that way, that way, that way. And then they begin to blame the fact it's not that way on somebody. And then beyond that, they said, however, if you were to do and choose to follow us in the path of anarchy, or follow us in the enhanced realities, all of these things could change. They usually start with the pet peeve, which is a backdoor. And they begin now to deconstruct it and bring it into now, these are the things that you want. You want natural medicine, you want all this stuff. And then beyond that, the reason you don't have it, it's because XYZ, they demonize somebody. There's a boogeyman that's resisting, that's blocking all of these things, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, let's choose the path of anarchy. Let's go out there and destroy the cabal. Let's do blah, blah, blah. And the last thing they ask you to do is to propagate this. Share this with your friend. Let everybody know. Recruit them. They're trying to gather souls and call them to the cause. And when enough of them have been courted, as the galactic equator crossing will begin to happen, it will precipitate, and all of these people will travel. It's what I call the wave function collapse. It will create a certain kind of density. When in the early universe, there were early molecules that were created and gases, and the gases begin to collide with each other and begin to rotate. And as they rotate and they gather enough mass by colliding with each other, creating more complex atoms and molecules, it's called, and they begin to rotate. And as they begin to rotate, they did something in that's called the accretion disks. They become bigger and bigger and bigger, and before you know it, you have a planet. After several million, 100 years, whatever the time is, you have a planet. So something similar is occurring. They're gathering soul, and at some point, there's going to be a wave function collapse, which is a point where there's enough consciousness, energy of people wanting the same thing gathered together with the same intention, and it will cause that reality to precipitate. And that's the wave function collapse. And then they will find themselves moving toward that destination. Now we as the who are doing the Melchizedek order of neutrality teachings, we want the same thing too. But we're elevating vertically toward a path where our own Antakarana and axis is merged with the axis of Melchizedek, with the celestial axis. I want you to remain focused on the work and do not let yourself be distracted by friends and family members and peer pressure to do X, Y, Z and move left to right and do all these other things. Any questions, any comments? Now, the pain of seeing somebody that you love and you have attachment to going into some other reality is real. However, if you're really evolving and going into 4D and then 5D, once you get to your alpha, beta additional axis, instead of just X, Y, Z, you have the time and the time-space, space-time coordinate axis is connected to you. You will be able to travel into whatever parallel world that they exist in and see them. They may not be able to see you because you're going to be so much more elevated, but you can go back in time and go back to another space-time location and see them. Because at that moment, you will become, by the time you get to 50 and 60 and beyond, you will know that you exist everywhere in the universe simultaneously. And all you need to do to go see them is to shift your conscious awareness from the location that you're in and search the collective unconscious of the blessed field to where they are. And once you have searched and found them, you can literally blank yourself out and instantaneously find yourself at that location. You can bilocate and multi-locate. But they may not be able to see you because you're going to be so advanced and so elevated, they will not be able to see you in all likelihood. You will see them, you will experience them. You might be able to try to influence them by sending them inspiration and a sign of some kind, but they will not be able to see you. But you will definitely be able to travel to them and see them. And I know, by the way, this is the reason why in family dynamics or in love relationship dynamic, there is a lot of fight and separation and end of marriage and all that are happening because of this. Because people are separating. And for a while, partners are trying to drag the other partner with them, and they've already made their choice. And their choice is valid. Any questions, any comments? I know some of the things that I'm talking about is very personal to you because we all have friends and family members we care for. And as Janice said before, they're good people. Yet they're making, to our mind, choices that we would not have made. And we get very concerned that they're going to go to the wrong place. There are no wrong places because your karma will guide you exactly to where you're supposed to be. It's not a mistake. The choices that you're making is not a mistake.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was our belief system, our emotional mindset, our spiritual mindset, not just our lip service of that sort, but the deep-seated sort of levels, and not, or maybe not only the karma Is that the case?
It's both.
Yes.
It's the karma, okay? The past choices that were made and the fact that we don't have the strength to evolve, to grow. This is why I'm connecting you and I'm asking you to all ask the karmic board for help. Because if you were to notice something like this that's courting you, you can, and you want to make an effort to go somewhere else, you can ask the karmic board to help you accelerate the reconciliation of that karma. And therefore, it will change, it will give you opportunities and experiences to make a different choice, to select a different future, but to also, and by the way, because of this, it will change your core. So if your core was tilted and you viscerally connected, let's say, for example, to the fixed 3D world, and you begin to realize, well, this is not what I want to do, where I want to go, but given my experiences during deep meditation, I want to go to the real 3D, the real new earth. And having done that, you would ask the karmic board for help, and the karmic board would come in and say, okay, this is the false axis that you have, but here is the path of the new earth is vertical, completely straight. And here is the belief system that are connected to it. Here you have the visceral experiences that you need to have to connect to it. And it will connect you to that visceral experience to give you a sense, an idea of how far you have to travel to get through it. And if you apply yourself, hopefully you will, because you're asking the karmic board, it will take you there. And you will have emancipated from a lesser choice into a higher choice. Does that make any sense?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because I know, as I said, this one girl, and I didn't talk to her because I don't know her like that. We are friends on mass media. I met her a couple of times, but she was making these like bizarre choices before and posting and all kinds of things that I was surprised. And then she was gone. I didn't see her for a while. At least her presence on mass media, and she returned. She's not talking about and she apologized. And she said that she was very traumatized. She had experiences in the past where she was abused, and she responded from a place of fear and blah blah blah, and she's now in a different place, which was actually extremely refreshing to watch, to witness.
Well, I think that the best thing that we can do for those of us who do have family members or close friends who we think may not be headed in a path that we think would be best for them is to lead by our example rather than by our words anyway. So as you do with your two friends that you speak of, you don't proselytize, you only respond if they ask you.
Yes.
And then by example, they learn more than if you were to have probably reached out to them and told them what to do or what not to do.
Yeah. And I joke with them every once in a while. We laughed, and I just want the company because I can't live in my cocoon all the time. I like them as beings, and I tell them that all the time. I love you both very much, and I'll do anything you need, any assistance that you need. And every once in a while, both of them will ask me, "Go deep here. What are we seeing?" And when they ask me, I tell them. And sometimes I feel I'm going too deep. I said, "You really want me to continue?" "Yes, continue." And the older man, a lot of time he is like, "My God, you messed me up. I gotta go home now and think about this." And wow, that was, and I'm like, okay, you asked, right? And so I'm telling you. And we've had private conversation away from my female friend where I was able to share with him some deeper stuff men to men. Because there's certain kind of conversation I cannot have with her there because she's trying to always, she feels that she has to help and she has to be God's assistant all the time. When in fact, he doesn't need this, to my perception. What he needs is actually people to just be real with him. And when him and I are alone, I am able to talk to him in a way that helps him. And sometimes when we're alone, he starts crying. Because one of the biggest issues he has as a man is that he is very sensitive and he can't show that vulnerability to the world. And he's in late 70s. And every once in a while when we're together, I'm able to, again, listen so attentively to him that he's the most important thing in the world. And I have no judgment and no condemnation in my heart and in my voice and in the way I'm listening to him. And when I am in that state, he feels it and he's able to open up and share with me some deep and profound personal struggle that he's having in relationships and his family and everything else. And the moment where that happens and he starts crying because he has a past. This man has lived life. He was in the army. There are all kinds of things that happened that were horrible in his past. And I'm able to hold space because when you listen to somebody that intensely, we talked about this last week, that intensely, what you do is that you become a witness to their burden, to their brokenness. And when you become a witness, what happens? Their burden gets reduced by half. Because when you listen without judgment like this, you confess them. And when you confess them, right after that, what happened? You give them absolution, which is you forgive them for their sin. Not you personally, but the God in you. When I'm saying you, I don't mean you as Pierre or as Janice or as Melton or whomever. I'm saying the you as the God within you. The God within you, confess them. And once they have expressed everything that they needed to express, then the God within you give them absolution by forgiving them. You don't have to say, I forgive them, but they can feel the forgiveness and the acceptance because you have no judgment whatsoever around them. And when I'm in that state with him, he cries, which is a beautiful thing. Any other comments or questions? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do our closing meditation. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you noticed. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. I accept the neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. On the path of ascendance and enlightenment, I stand at the gate of the heavens. Waiting for the Buddha and the Dakini and the consort of the Buddha to lead me and help me find safe passage into the new earth. Guide my path, keep me focused and undistracted from the Maya and the illusions that will tempt me on my journey. envelope me in your mantle and cloak of glory. And take me into your love and neutrality. Help me find safe passage into the new earth. May the love, the peace, the neutrality, and the liberation of the new earth precipitate on earth and ground in me and in anyone and everyone in my circle of influence. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre. What was interesting is that I felt the collective of our group, our spiritual group body, in a united, I don't know what to call it, presence, I guess. It's very, very lovely.
Wonderful, wonderful, terrific. Happy to hear that.
Ah, so blissful. Thank you, Pierre.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, all of you. Thank you all, family. I really appreciate you and appreciate this path that we're in. deep love, sending you all the best. You all have a beautiful rest of the day, and I'll talk to you next week. Blessings to all of you.
Bye, everyone. Love you guys.
Love you all.